Hey, everybody. Welcome to this week's Profoundly Pro Spotlight series. Thanks for being here. For anyone who might be new to the series, the Pro Spotlights are all about diving deep with pros on key topics, things that are actually working in practice. There's no fluff, no theory, just real conversations about the strategies and approaches that are making a real difference day to day. Today, we're going to be talking about something that I know a lot of you have questions about, which is what it actually takes to scale from freelancer to founder. I'm super excited to have this conversation with Chris Bryant, the founder of Bryant Works. Chris has made this transition. It's been a couple years now. We'll get into that. But he's gone from freelancer to building a team and a company. And I know a lot of you in the community are at various stages of this journey, either thinking about it or actively executing against that change and sort of scaling up. Many others wondering whether or not this is the right path for you. So we're going to be digging into the real details here with Chris on how he did it, the transition points, what actually breaks when you try to scale, how client work changes, and any advice that Chris you're open to sharing on
Of
whether and
course.
when to make a move like this and when it might make sense. We're going to cover everything from Chris's solo days all the way through building a team, and then we'll get into some Q&A from the community. So get your questions ready. Feel free to drop your questions in the chat along the way if you want, and we'll open it up towards the end for some live Q&A. Chris, thanks so much for being here. I'm really excited to talk about this today.
Yeah, thank you very much for having me. I greatly appreciate it.
Cool. Well, I guess to kick things off, Chris, can you take us back to the very beginning, right? When you
Yeah.
were thinking about, or actually, like, even before you might be thinking about Bryant
Mhm.
Works, like your
Yeah.
solo days.
Yeah, yeah. So I started on HubSpot many, many years ago when it was still just kind of a marketing product. That was really all there was. I was kind of brought in as the tools guy at a marketing agency, and just learned the very basics of HubSpot there. They since transitioned that company to be more like a dev shop, still doing a lot of integrations. They're still working with HubSpot today. But I moved on and did some other kind of work. I didn't know how to write code. So I moved on and did some other work, but I was always like side hustling HubSpot related work on on the side that way. I tried to get in and did web development and that sort of thing, but it was really tough to compete there. So my first real thing was like, well, I'm going to just niche down into this HubSpot thing.
Yeah.
It's kind of catching some traction. I'm seeing some people out there with it. So I decided to, get some traction, or sorry, just niche down into just helping people with HubSpot.
Yeah.
I initially started on Upwork, still have a small presence there. I don't really do that anymore, but that's really where I started. And it was really easy to get pretty much any HubSpot job that came in there because there was just a very small amount of people doing anything related to HubSpot inside the
Yeah.
freelancer world at the time.
Got it. What year was that, roughly?
Oh, that was like, it must have been 2015,
Okay.
maybe. I don't know. It was
Wow.
a while. Yeah, like, because I think I've been doing HubSpot now for like almost 11 years. So it would have been 2014, I
Gotcha.
think. Yeah.
Gotcha.
Or
That's wild.
2013 even. Yeah, it was a long time ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, 2017 actually is when it was.
Okay.
I just went back and
Okay.
looked. Yeah, 2017.
So you were at a company that used HubSpot. You kind of became like the admin, either accidental or on
Correct.
purpose.
Yeah, we were actually. I'm not sure if it's true, but I was told that we were the first marketing agency to go to Boston to do our partner onboarding at the offices.
Ah,
Um, yeah, so we decided to just make a video out of it, and we went to HubSpot offices in Boston and did our onboarding there. So that's when I really got to like see it.
got it. Got it. So this was a HubSpot partner.
Yeah. We had just decided to become one at that time. Yeah, so really
Got
early
it.
in the partner program.
Got it. Very cool. I'm just taking notes while we're talking.
Sure.
Um, that's super cool. So you were focused on HubSpot, at a HubSpot, a new HubSpot partner, and in
Yep.
addition to sort of that call it 9 to 5 kind of role, you
hmm
started doing some HubSpot stuff on the side, is it?
Yeah, that's really what it was. Is I would. I'd spend my lunch breaks. I'd go to Panera Bread, spend my lunch break an hour there just doing, I had a personal laptop that I just do some work on the side. And then, on the weekends and late at night, I would, do random gigs here and there with the platform. The other thing that I really did that kind of helped upscale me really fast was the HubSpot community.
Yeah.
People were always posting, because I was like, well, there's lots of people here who need help. They might not necessarily be, looking to pay for it, but if you do
Yeah.
it enough, you might get something out of it, right? You make a presence and that sort of thing. So that's where I really like cut my teeth on like really learning the ins and outs of the platform. Because
Yeah.
like the clients that we were working with, there was only like maybe three that we were doing like on HubSpot.
Yeah.
But then going to the community, there was like tons of people who had questions and wanted to do something or what's the best way to do something. So it was really like learning through that.
Yeah. Got it. And if you don't mind me asking, like, did was it did everyone know you were doing HubSpot hustles on the side or
Not really, no.
okay.
But I think nobody really cared though
Yeah.
at the time because it was like, it's you're not necessarily doing it on company time. You're doing it after hours. You're doing it on your lunch break and that
Yeah.
sort of thing. And wasn't even using their device for any of it. So I don't think it really mattered. I
Yeah.
did verify like in my contract that there wasn't like a clause against stuff like that,
Yeah.
sort of thing, and we were totally fine.
Yeah. And so most of those early sort of customers, clients that you got were either
Mhm.
through Upwork or through the community, is it?
Yeah, but some of my biggest clients, like the biggest one I ever got at that time, I've since had bigger from Upwork, was Sbarro, like the pizza chain. They
Yeah.
actually found me through Upwork and I did work with them. So it was already that early on, there was big fish out there on the platform.
Yeah. Got it. That's cool. And what were the projects, if you don't mind me asking?
It was anything from like baby sleep coaches to franchise list uploads to random form stuff to Zapier related work. It was like just it was really operation stuff. I've been clear since day one that I do not help somebody do their marketing. We were a marketing agency, but I was the tools person. Like I didn't know how to write a good email copy. I didn't know how to write like a compelling headline and stuff like that. It was um, I could tie it all together and help
Yeah.
people report on it and the best way to do it and that sort of thing.
Yeah. Got it. Chris,
Hmm.
I'm realizing like we skipped over your background. Like, do you have a technical background or like how did you
Sure.
even get into
So
this?
my I majored in television and production and advertising in college. I paid my way through college doing wedding videography. But then I learned technical and some basics of code because I got really into motion design. If you're familiar with like that, it's like, more CGI and that sort of thing really early on, that way. So I learned a little bit of code in dealing with that. Then I worked for the marketing agency. Then I worked for another company doing front end design because I always knew how to like do a little bit of code on the front side. And then there
Yeah.
I really learned a ton of just doing front end design that way.
Mm.
Didn't do any back end code or anything like that. Um, and then from there, it was, one of my freelancing clients brought me on to help them migrate off of Klaviyo and onto HubSpot. And then through that process, they just said, well, what if we just take you on full time? You can still do your, side hustle stuff as long as like your normal work gets done. Like we don't really care.
Yeah.
And that's what I did. And then eventually it got to the point of like, I made sure between that client and other side hustle stuff, I was sustaining the same salary as I was at the other company because at that point I had a wife and one child. And I didn't want to like do some weird transition, and that sort of thing. It's like we didn't really have like a huge emergency fund set aside, but I was like, as long as I can keep the payments consistent for a while and it equates to what my salary was, I feel comfortable.
Yep. Yep. That's wild. Okay. So how much were you working at the time? Like,
Yeah, I work more now than I did then,
okay.
honestly. But it was I've always been very fast in kind of some of the things that I can do because I don't want to like toot my own horn in that regard, but it's like I was very quick to understand what the actual asks were and very quick into like drilling down to what is the thing we're actually trying to solve for.
Yeah.
And that made it so that way whenever I was working from home, I could iterate on stuff very, very fast from the front end design wise, which then left me more time to do other things. And that's how I've kind of always approached it is like I've always there was a book, I'm sure you've read it as many others have, Rework by the same folks who did 37 Signals, of just like the one story that always stands out for me is like the cost of a meeting that sits in some of that. And like when I was
Yeah.
working in the larger organizations, there'd be like 10 people in the room and it's like, well, this meeting just cost, a couple grand for a 30-minute phone call, right? And like, what did we actually do in this thing?
Yeah.
And I've been trying to iterate and like I've really learned from that of just like, it's great to say hi, hello, how are you, that sort of stuff. But like, let's get to what we're trying to solve so I can do that and then go do other stuff.
Yeah.
At that time I was probably working maybe 10 hours a day.
Okay.
I since am still probably doing 12 to 14 a day right now,
Yeah.
but for different reasons. The kind of work has changed,
Got it.
just because of where I'm at now.
Yeah. Brilliant. So there are a lot of folks in our community that are thinking about this, right?
Hmm.
And I'm curious, as you were in this stage of your life, like thinking about whether or not to scale, what made you realize that like it was the time to expand beyond solo work? And what year was
Sure.
that you kind of moved
So that
beyond?
probably was maybe 3 years ago, 3 to 4 years ago is when I hired my first contractor.
Yeah.
And it was just light minor work, and it was really to cover the gap in my own skill set, which was still at the time back end development. I still
Yeah.
didn't really know how to write code, but I could click buttons really fast, and I knew how the systems worked really well. And that's whenever I was like, cool, I'm gonna go find somebody who can help me with this little side thing. I get random stuff every now and then. It's not a massive amount of work, but I need to have somebody that I can kind of toss it to keep the client happy. So then I can work in tandem with them and keep the client out of it. Right. So
Yep.
that way we're communicating, can make the best product or make the thing work, and then the client just sees results. But that was
Yep.
3 to 4 years ago. When I hired my first, like more like, hey, I want 20 hours a week from you. That was actually about this same time last year. I think about.
Okay.
Yeah. And I
Got it.
ended up hiring one person for that role and then very quickly learned I should have hired full time. It wasn't their capacity and it wasn't anything they were doing wrong. It was just something that I was like, I really need to figure out to have full time capacity because I, this is my full time job and I'm looking for my clients to be treated like they're still supported by me full time. And by hiring a
Yep.
contractor for X amount of hours wasn't cutting it. What
Yep.
again, it wasn't a skill set, it wasn't anything like that. It was like I just need them for full time.
Yep. Yep.
Excuse me.
Yeah. So when you've hired your first contractor 3 or 4 years ago, what was the skill like? What was that person doing? Was that like back end
Yeah,
dev or
it
was it?
was it was basically what I was doing.
Okay.
Less development work, but they needed to know HubSpot very thoroughly.
Okay.
Didn't need to know the ins and outs like I do. Again, I've been on the system for a very long time and know a lot of its ins and outs. But I didn't need that capacity. I needed them to know how to teach somebody how to use HubSpot, how to build a list and send an email and create a form and build an automation, like the basics. Definitely
Yeah.
more than like an entry level person, but not a systems admin or like a solutions engineer who's been there for many, many years.
Got it. Got it. So it was like you're replicating yourself. That was sort of the
Trying to, yeah, because I was like, cool, I'm gonna handhold for like 2 weeks, and then I'm gonna set you off on your own, basis. I'll be there, CC me on emails. I'm here if you have questions,
yeah.
but that was where I really had it at.
Got it. Got it. And sort of looking back,
Hmm.
because I think a lot of folks will find it a little counterintuitive that going back, you would instead hire a full-time person.
Yep,
You had demand to support a full-time person?
I did. Yeah, I
Okay.
had demand very early on
Okay.
to support a full-time person, but I was selfish and scared
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
support a full-time person because, all of a sudden I'm looking at it from the point of like I'm tying my success to their success and they're doing the same in
Yeah.
that regard. Now, I'm not giving equity away. I'm not putting them into a position of like, um, where it's like, if they don't secure net new business and if they don't keep the contracts happy and that sort of thing, that then they're let go. It's more so along the lines of like, how can I build something, sustain my salary, but then also sustain another individual's,
Yeah.
is where I was at.
Got it. And how did you get that demand? Like I know a lot of folks that you mentioned
Sure.
Upwork, you mentioned community. Like, was it
Mhm.
more of that?
Yeah, it was a lot of that. I mean, like for a while now, we've had it so that I've been working on the platform again for so long that past clients from many years ago refer new business today. And from past clients many years ago are now bringing me into their current companies, right? They've left those companies, they've joined me again. I've got a couple clients where like I've been working with them at four different companies that
Mm,
they've all worked at because they just know and bring me in for it. And it's just like you just end up like, the rule that I have always followed is a 10 out of 10, standard is really what it is. It's like I just look at it as a basic NPS is that at any point in an engagement, roughly 14 days after the engagement kicks off, you maintain a 10 out of 10 with the client. Do
hmm.
whatever you have to maintain that because if you do that, they will give you more business. They will refer you more business. They will pay their invoices on time. They will not question anything because they feel like they're getting the value that they need, sort of
Yeah.
thing. And
Yeah.
by having that standard, for 10 or 11 years now has just led to this large scale book of business, if you will, and referral network of just like, oh, go talk to Chris and his team, right?
Yeah.
And it's like I am, and I realize this, a 1% story, maybe. I don't know if that's the right way to say it, but it's like there's not like unless you've been building this for a very long time and you kind of know the right people, it's very tough to put yourself in this position because it takes
Yeah.
many years to get rolling, sort of thing.
Yeah.
But it's one of those things of just like once you kind of get it like up over the tipping point, another great book, it just continues to flow from there.
Yeah.
It's like it's tough to turn it off at that point. Like sure you
Yeah.
could, but it's really tough to like at the point now, I am saying no to some business because we just don't have the capacity to support it. But then I'm also saying no because of budget. With some
Yeah.
people now, it's like we've increased our standards of like, or not standards, but our minimums of
Yeah.
what we work with now.
Yeah. I think a lot of folks are going to be wondering, like, the standard of striving for a 10 out of 10 within 14 days
Hmm.
of launch, like, what goes into that? Can you
Yeah,
talk a little bit about that?
yeah. So I think a lot of it is you have to just and it's I don't mean for it to sound like cliche, but you have to meet people with where they are. Like
Hmm.
most of the time, somebody is reaching out because they have a problem, not
Yeah.
because they're proactively trying to do. Like some people are trying to be proactive, but a lot of times people are frustrated, and it's not because of you, and it's not because of something else. It's just because like it's not working the way it's supposed to work, right? When
Hmm.
I click the
Hmm.
button, it's not doing what I want it to do. And you just have to meet them and say, okay, well, set HubSpot to the side. What do you want to happen? Right?
Hmm.
Like, do you want a form fill to send an email? Should that do that immediately? Should that notify your sales team? Does that need to make a deal? Like, ask them questions. Like,
Yeah.
what is your ideal scenario? Then you do that and fix that problem today or tomorrow, depending upon the time of that call, right? Like,
Yeah.
show them how fast you can understand a problem and go and do it. Like, I've
Yeah.
had many discovery calls of like clients who could easily turn into a retainer project, and I fix what they want in a 15-minute phone call. And like, this is
Yeah.
the best thing ever. Like, how do we pay you for this time? I'm like, you don't. Like, I'm not going to bill you for 15 minutes. It's going to take me too long to go send an invoice, right? Like, if you have more questions, here's my calendar. Go book time on it. I'll bill you for the next one, sort of
Yep.
thing. And by
Yeah.
doing things like that, it creates this not necessarily bubble, but like this little community of just like, oh, well, this guy fixed my problem. I'll go message him. And like, oh, that guy knows another girl who has the same problem. Just go talk to this guy. He'll fix it for
Yeah.
you, sort of stuff. Like I've
Yeah.
done a lot of those like freebies, if you will, but that's led to that 10 out of 10 of just like, I could have taken another 15 minutes. Oh, tell me about your business and what do you do? And yeah, I'll figure that out eventually. But like, oh, you have a problem. I can fix that right now in 10 minutes, or we can continue just talking, sort of
Yeah.
stuff, right?
Yeah.
It's like I have a lot of times where it's like, okay, just share your screen. I'll show you how to fix it right now.
Yeah.
But then with the client side, like larger engagements, try to understand where you can give them some quick wins, right?
Yeah.
Because that gives you a 10 out of 10 in the first 14 days while you're working towards the larger stuff, right? Like a lot of times, like think about it in terms of like t-shirt sizes, where
Mm.
like with my team now, it's like I assign it's not like I don't say this is what you're getting, but like in my head, I know, oh, that's a large project and that's a medium project and that's a small project. That comes back from like my front end development days of doing like Scrum and that sort of jazz.
Yeah.
But it's like I can look at the project and say, okay, you got like a couple larges in here and a couple smalls, right? I'll fix the smalls tomorrow, and then we'll pick out one of the larges and work on that, right?
Yeah.
And then they know, oh well, cool, he already fixed a bunch of stuff, or we've already got a solution in place for a bunch of stuff. Now we can start working on the bigger picture things.
Yeah.
And then that's where it really secures a good relationship very, very quickly.
Yeah. I, let me ask you this. When you're on these initial calls with a new prospect, new potential
Hmm.
customer, client, whatever,
Sure.
I have to imagine sometimes you sort of have to look at it and say like, hey, this really isn't for me.
Yeah.
If you're really striving for a 10 out of 10, like
Yep.
I think we have a lot of folks who are like, oh, I don't want to turn anyone down because I
Yeah.
need
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
money. Do you
Yeah. Yeah.
encounter that?
I do. Yeah. I will say that it took me, and it'll take others, because we all like money, and it'll take time, but eventually you'll start saying no to projects because the money isn't worth it mentally.
Hmm.
It's not worth the stress. I've had some projects like that where it's like, man, that's a nice paycheck, but I really don't want to deal with that issue, right? Or like their budget's, $1,000 and they want to connect NetSuite to HubSpot. I'm like, I'm not going to touch it. I won't even look at it for like
Yeah,
less than 5 grand, sort of
yeah,
thing. Those are like arbitrary numbers, but that's just like you have to think a little bit about it. It's just like, what is it they're actually asking for? And if they have a budget in mind, try to figure out what that is. If it's not, you just have to be real with yourself on those sorts of things of like, if my hourly rate is this is their problem. Does it make sense for me to jump in here on that? And like, I could say yes to more development projects if I wanted to, but I don't have any interest in those because I'm not skilled in that, right?
yep,
The reason that like I can demand a little bit of a higher hourly rate than other organizations, or I think we're actually pretty standard in terms of market rates. But instead of billing at, I could probably bill at like 250 if I wanted to. But that's because of like my hour, due to how many years I've been on this, is not the same as everybody else's hour. It's like the case
right,
of, the mechanic who knows where to hit,
yep,
sort of thing, versus like somebody spending 5 hours on something, but then the guy shows up with the hammer and hits it and he's done in 30 minutes,
yeah,
sort of
yeah,
stuff. It's
right,
just the skill. And that's where it's like you have to cut your teeth doing small projects. I started an Upwork at $45 an hour.
mm-hmm,
We now bill at 195 across the board.
mm-hmm,
And it
mm-hmm,
took us, I mean, that's 9 years to get to
yeah,
that rate.
yeah,
It was just like, I think it was 45, then 75, then 100, then 125, then 175, and then now 195. I think that was like the scale that I went to.
yeah,
And what I found is the asks didn't go down. Like with the rate increasing,
yep,
the asks were still there,
yep,
of people, because it's like you get to a different kind of client.
yeah,
A lot of times the client willing to accept $195 an hour is way easier to work with than the person who wants $50 an hour, because
yeah,
like it's there's some semantics in there. But
yeah. That makes a ton of sense. And just so I just want to
yeah,
reconfirm one thing. So
sure.
as as you're making this transition, right? You
Hmm.
were at a partner, you were doing the community and the Upwork
Yep.
thing, the
Hmm.
hustle, and you sort of said to yourself, "Hey, I think I can, support my lifestyle by going all in on this." And you left that company.
It was a mutual thing. They were going a different way, and I just
Yeah.
didn't fit that. And I was
Okay.
like, and they told me way ahead. They were like, "Hey, we're gonna go do this over here. You either need to learn how to code or do something else."
Yeah.
And I was like, "Cool, I'm not gonna learn how to code." And then I, started interviewing, and things all worked out.
Yeah.
It's like they again, they still work on HubSpot, but it was like I'm gonna go this way and work on front end design. I knew somebody who worked at the company, that they were at, and I got a good interview there, and was eventually hired.
Gotcha. And so you did that for, I don't know, it
About
sounds
two
like six,
years.
two.
Yeah, I think it
Okay.
was like 2 years at that company, just side hustling. And then
Yep.
while I was at that company, one of my side hustles turned into my other full-time gig that I was at for another 2 years.
Okay. Gotcha. And then
Mhm.
3, 4 years ago, you hired your first contractor. How did you find that contractor?
It was actually through HubSearch.
Okay. Oh, gotcha.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah.
And
Because I didn't really know where else to go. And I was like, I've seen these guys around. I had never interacted with the team, but I was like, yeah, I'll reach out and see what it looks like.
I've heard of them. I think they're pretty good.
Yeah, yeah.
That Hub Search group.
Yeah.
Awesome. Okay, cool. Well, and you had mentioned as you were making that shift, you touched on something that I think a lot of people have questions about. There's Jason weighing in.
Yeah.
Um, uh, which is like, what made you nervous, right? Like, I think a
Sure.
lot of folks are like, oh, the idea of
Yeah.
striking out on my own, supporting someone else, that sort of thing. Like,
Yeah,
how
yeah.
did you wrestle with that?
The easiest thing for me is, early on, I transitioned my business into like a formal, I get a salary. right? Like the business account is over there, my personal is over here, and I'm just going to draw a salary. I'm not going to just randomly take money from the business,
Hmm.
which led to cash in the bank in the business side.
Hmm.
So what helped mentally is, oh, I can physically, financially pay for this person's next 90 days and my own if I sign nothing new, right? So
Yeah.
if I don't get a single invoice for the next 90 days, I will be fine. Right. Now,
Yeah.
obviously, if something weird happens, we're going to fix it sort of thing or take some action. But that's where that's the number one is enough cash in the bank to support it or enough guarantees, right? Oh,
Yeah.
you've signed a 3 month minimum commitment that guarantees this, that sort of thing. That
Yeah.
was number one. Number two was like skill set, right? Like test people. Like when I was
Hmm.
interviewing, like, hey, how would you approach this? Here's a sample SOW. How would you approach this? The other side of this is like, and this came from the confidence of Hub Search is like these people were already pre-vetted sort of
Yeah.
thing. That helped there. And then yeah, it was like I just stayed on it. My first full-time hire was actually my COO that I hired. There was a person that I talked with at HubSpot. Nicholas Holland is his name. And him and I talked, and he told me where I was at. Go get an EA, and they need to be local. Is what he told me. Somebody to help you, like, because I told him like this is what I'm doing, this is how the business is structured, and that sort of thing, right? I gave him like the whole picture, and he's like, yeah, you got to go get an EA, have them do personal stuff and also business stuff.
Yeah.
Like, don't go pick up your clothes at the dry cleaner. Don't book your own dinner reservations. Don't buy your own gifts. Like, have that person do those so you can focus on this sort of thing. And I was like, I don't believe in that. But like, as you and I were talking, like, you didn't realize I live abroad. I do live in Poland.
Hmm.
And local EA made sense because I was like, I don't speak fluent language yet. I can get
Yeah.
by. So having
Yeah.
somebody that I can just speak to in English and they go handle, oh yeah, I'll book the car maintenance appointment, right? Like I'll schedule to get the oil changed for you. You just got to show up, sort of
Yeah.
stuff. That actually helped mentally with some weirdness there. But then I was like, cool. She doesn't really know HubSpot. I need somebody who can help like take more admin stuff off my plate. Is
Yeah.
really what it was. And that's whenever I hired a contractor who was a project manager, and then I turned her into my COO.
Okay.
And she was my
Was that
first
the
full-time hire.
Got it. Was that the same contractor that you had been working with
No, it was
previous?
different
No, it's
actually.
different.
Yeah,
Okay.
different. Yeah. So I was still working with the contractor, still working with her on a project basis. And then I had another individual who was contracting with me. And we met actually at Inbound. I made a post just saying, hey, I'm going to Inbound. If anybody wants to meet up, say hi, that sort of thing. She reached out, and then she was my second full-time hire, actually. Um, so on the team now is me, a COO, and three other full-time implementers. Titles HubSpot specialist. They know just as well as I know that I'm not really big on titles, but it's like I'm big on like the values of the organization.
Yeah.
That's really what matters to me. And they all are like everyone's like living those kinds of values and like well, not living, but like they understand what the goal is here. Like everyone knows we get a 10 out of 10 no matter what. And if it's not a 10 out of 10, what can we do to get it there?
Yep. Yep. Got it. Okay. So I think in the um, timeline, so it was you, then it was you plus a contractor for 20 hours a week, then it was
Mhm.
a full-time contractor, or it was the COO.
It was it was one contract. It was actually two contractors. Then I made the third with the project manager. Then I turned the project manager into full time and let one of the contractors go because I
Okay.
needed more capacity and they just didn't have it.
Yeah.
And then that's when I opened up for the second full time hire.
Got it. Got it.
Hmm.
And what does the COO do for you? Like you had
Yeah.
me in the beginning, like when it was an initial hire that was trying to replicate you, you can
Yep.
coach that person and train that person.
Yeah.
Now you've got a COO maybe doing different things,
Yeah.
or am I
Yeah.
wrong?
So she is actually doing nothing as it relates to HubSpot work.
Yeah.
I realized I'm very good at HubSpot, but then as you probably realized, if you're just doing a business, you also have to be good at invoicing and contracting and setting up the legalities of stuff and an HR system and all this other jazz that I had
Yeah.
no real interest in doing.
Yeah.
So she's doing a lot of that. I still have some oversight into invoicing just because I want to make sure things look right. I'm still very sensitive to that. with clients because I don't want people getting a weird bill. And, it's like, I also don't send invoices for like, oh, you're only going to get a bill for 1 hour of work. Like, we'll just waive it sort of thing. It's not worth the trouble,
Yeah.
sort of thing. So like I have some stuff like that, but her biggest project that she's been working on is actually prepping us for SOC 2. So we just entered our monitoring window today. So we're actually like ideally by January, because I think it's a 90-day window. I don't know what it is, right? And I don't want to know what it is. That's what she's doing. So it's like she's doing that, and now that that's done, she's actually moving into preparing for accreditations. I've kind of given like very clear things like this is what I want. If you can help me get there, great. If you can't, we'll find not like we'll let you go and find somebody else. Help me find somebody who can, right? Because that might not be
Yeah.
her specialty, and she might not know how to do it. So SOC 2 was the first one, which really helped. Her husband actually is an IT person, so he knew a lot about it as well to kind of help us prep for that. And then next up is accreditations. I've told her like these are the three accreditations I want to go get for the organization. You tell me what you need from me, and I'll get it to you. But other than that, like I'm just assuming things are going smoothly.
Yeah.
Um, and that's where she's focusing next. She's also managing our contracting, and then lastly, she's officially taking over like all of invoicing beginning of next year because we just shifted systems. And I was like, I'm not going to have you learn this old system because I'm going to get rid of it, and then we'll just start fresh on the new one.
Got it.
Um, mhm.
And
And she
would you, who?
also the last thing here is she's actually going to be taking over from me client health.
Okay.
So I still meet with all my team members every other day to understand like what are you doing with your clients, how's that going, that sort of thing. But I don't want to hear that anymore. It's not because I don't care, but it's because
Yeah.
of like I want them to use me as a resource to solve their client problems. Don't
Mm.
tell me how happy the client is. Don't tell me, the client has a question about the invoice. Don't tell me that sort of thing. Tell me like what issues they have with their HubSpot account or what things that they want to do net new that I can help you with because I have the really technical brain and I can do code now and I know like how to properly structure something or build an integration or something like that. Help me
Yeah.
help you do that. And if the client has questions about the invoicing or if you think the client is unhappy, that doesn't go to me anymore. That goes to Katie. And Katie
Yeah.
handles that now. So like Katie has biweekly meetings with the team as well to just like how are your clients doing? Are you on track for your projects? That sort of stuff.
Yeah.
She's still playing that, but it's like I don't have visit. I mean, I can go look at it if I want to, but I really don't care. I've got other things that I need to focus on.
Yeah.
Because I'll keep myself up at night if I see an NPS come across the board as an 8 out of 10. Like
Yeah.
I won't sleep, sort of thing.
Yeah.
I'll be stressed out, and I don't want to be stressed out. I
Yeah.
since I still have a wife, but we have three kids now versus the one when I started this. I'm like I got enough over there.
Nice. Well, so what are those things that you're still really focused on? Like what
Yeah.
Katie took on some things and but
Yep.
what are you obsessed about?
Yeah, I mean, I'm still obsessed about like I have like right now we have across all of us like 100-ish clients, 100 to 110 what I call active clients.
Mm.
Active is anybody billed in the last 90 days. Our contracting is not set up in such a way that you pay every month. You just pay in time and materials. So like some months people don't need anything and they'll come back the next month and then it'll go quiet again and they might go quiet for 6 months and then they'll come back. That's just the way how it works. We have enough like clients in a hopper that people just kind of keep rotating. But
Yeah.
one thing that I've really noticed now, and I've always had this hunch, is that I could have my team if they don't have to work the way that I work, because I still work like 12 to 14 hours a day. I
Yeah.
manage probably 80 of the clients, and I have a team of three managing roughly the other 20. And I'm managing the really small clients, the onesies, twosies, but then I'm also handling like the people who need 20 hours a week from me, or not
Yeah.
from me, but like 20 hours a month from me.
Yeah.
And I'm just focused on them. But all this to say, one thing that I've noticed, and I think that people watching this can learn from is go very deep and go very proactive because the one thing that I've noticed with the team is they're actually drumming up new retainers and new business and new statements of work that unless I went and asked for it would never have happened. But they have the capacity now to ask for it.
Uh-huh.
And they know and they're starting to learn with the client. And like what I wanted with my clients is like you can still talk to Chris at any point. He'll answer an email you send him. But you can also talk to Caitlin, or you can also talk to John or whoever, right? And they will do the exact same thing for you and
Yeah.
likely faster because
Yeah.
Chris has the whole thing, he'll get to your email in terms of like chronological order sort of stuff is like how I
Yeah.
work, but like they're in and out of your account every day. Like they know
Yeah.
better. in
Yeah.
some cases. And if they have a really hard question, like, you know, I had a client who's working, they want to get rid of Turn Zero and they want to come over to HubSpot. And I'm like, well, cool, we'll just build a custom events thing. And my team member doesn't know how to do that. So I'll build the custom events thing and they'll
Yep.
handle the rest of the relationship, right?
Yep.
Tell me if it's working, tell me if it's not. Is that what they want? Yes, no, and that's how we work. But
Yeah.
and that's what I've really noted. I always had the hunch of like, if I just ask for more work, it's a guarantee I'd get it. But now I've opened them up to have the capacity to ask for that work, sort of
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah, that makes a ton of sense. You mentioned that you meet with your team every other
Hmm.
day. You meet with
Yep.
each member
Yeah,
multiple
right now
times
I
per
do. I
week?
used to meet with my COO every single morning to say like, this is what we're doing. Where did we get with this, that, yesterday? And then I kind of learned, and don't get me wrong, I love her to death, but it's like it turned into like personal stuff, which is totally fine. How are the kids? How was your marathon? That sort of stuff. I care about that sort of thing, but it's like,
Mm.
between the hours of 9 to 5, what do you need from me that I can give
Yeah.
you today? Sort of
Yep.
stuff, right? So that
Yep.
way I can keep you going because my goal is I try to keep things off my plate as fast as they come in,
Yep.
sort of thing, because then I can go work on other stuff, right? Or
Sure.
maybe I'll take a longer lunch, or a longer dinner or that sort of thing, and then come back to it later. But
Yeah.
that's really where I try to focus at.
Yeah. That makes a lot of sense. And I have to imagine something else that you touched on, which is might be subtle, but I don't think is I think it's unique. Your conversations with them are focused on like, don't tell me that they're doing great. Tell me where they need help.
Yeah,
Let's really get into how we're going to move the ball forward.
yeah. But
Which, yeah.
go ahead. Sorry.
No, I think that has this sort of flywheel effect. Like
Yeah.
they're actively looking for those things and like you're solving
Mhm.
problems and adding value, not talking about the value that you already created.
Yeah. The second piece that I'm doing with them is many like little reviews, if you will. Like that's probably the easiest way to say it. Of like, I want them to tell me what's not working about this relationship.
Yeah.
If there's anything, right? Because like my first full-time hire was 6 months ago. And now I have a team of 6 FTEs, right?
Yep.
Myself included. We
Yep.
scaled really fast. I always had the ability to, but again, I was selfish and scared. Selfish because like I'm afraid to give anything away and
Yeah.
scared because I'm afraid to give anything away, like what's going to happen.
Yeah.
It's not like, money, whatever, like finances or whatever, that'll work itself out because you follow the 10 out of 10 rule. It always works itself out whenever you do that.
Yeah.
Now granted, there's capacity, but you know, the thing though with them is like I want to understand like how can I better support you in your role. So is it you want to become more technical or you want to be more consultative? Because one of my
Mhm.
team members, they want to become more technical. They want to learn how to write code. They want to build, custom integrations. They want to learn how to do that. And I have another one who's like, no, I don't really want to do that. I want to learn how to architect better. Right. And I'm
Yep.
like, cool, I've done both. I can split and help you do that over there and you do that over there. The
Yep.
other thing that I'll say to this is when I get a new discovery, like a new client wants to meet, or like I get, hey, here's a referral. I bring the person who I think that client will best fit with to the first phone call. So they
Hmm.
know from day one, this is what we are potentially doing
Yep.
with these people. So it's not, I was on the receiving end of like a couple times where like I'd get assigned a client because I white labeled. I'd get assigned a client and I wouldn't have any idea what's going on. I'd show up to the first phone call. Hey, how are you? What is it that you need help with? Sort of thing.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's just a horrible experience. And, I'd try to like scrum through and find the notes and that sort of thing. But like having them come to the first meeting benefits everybody involved. There's no harm in doing that because they are also like, don't just let Chris talk. Like if you have questions, ask questions,
Yeah.
right? Like we're, I've been on the end of like implementations gone bad or like something goes awry, right? We have to remind ourselves that we are all on the same team.
Yeah.
Like nobody here is here to make and to see this thing fail, right? So
Right.
it's like ask questions up front. Make sure that we are very clear in like what we're building and what we're, doing here, sort of thing. It's
Yeah.
like time is super, super again, it's like going back to the 37 signals thing, right? It's like there's 6 people in this meeting for an hour. This meeting is going to cost everybody involved roughly $3,000. What are we doing, right? And make sure everyone understands what we're trying to solve for.
Yep. That makes sense. What surprised you most about the transition from freelancer to founder and sort of growing a team?
Um, Oh, that's a great question. The client work, what surprised me the most actually is the sense of relief around some clients. I'd get some emails. Like I'd have a client who shoots emails just constantly back and forth. I'd answer, they'd respond. I'd answer, they'd respond. I'm like, oh, okay, I'm just going to start scheduling emails because I don't want to talk to you anymore today. Not in a bad way of just like, I've got to focus on this other thing,
Yeah.
right? Of I don't have to do that as much anymore because like they're able to do that. Um, the other thing is like also this like having the ability to archive an email because one of my team members is on it. That, as silly as it sounds, felt really good the first couple times it happened. I see
Yeah.
an email come in with a request. Normally, I'd just save that and I'd go do that thing. But now I can just hit the archive button because my team members CC'd on it and they know
Yeah.
that's their client, right? Oh, I'll archive it. They'll take care of it, sort of thing,
Yeah.
right? And then I'll kind of put a mental note to like ask them, oh, yeah, just make sure you saw it like the next time we chat, sort of thing. Because like right now, I'm still inundated in the day to day with like all client stuff. But eventually, like with Katie, I've told her like probably end of January, beginning of February. And that's another thing too, is very realistic timelines. I'm not expecting anything to happen tomorrow, in terms of the large scale things. Like I'm already planning for like Q2, Q3 of like this is where I want the business to be by these quarters, right? And here's
Yeah.
what I think we have to do to get it there. So I know one of those is like pulling me out of client health is one because then I can focus on getting larger projects and pulling more people into other projects,
Yeah.
right? And then
Yeah.
it's also the ability to focus more deeply with some clients,
Yeah.
versus like because a lot of times I catch myself, I'm talking on a phone call, but I'm answering somebody else's problem via email or Slack, right? Like I'm solving for them, but I'm also solving on one of the other monitors.
Yeah.
And I'm really trying not to do that, because
Yeah.
then I miss on stuff. Thank God for note recorders, like AI recorders, because if I didn't have those, I wouldn't know what I'm supposed to do at the end of a phone
Yeah.
call,
Yeah.
sort of thing. So that was another big thing too. So,
Were there any mental shifts? I got a question here from someone in
mhm,
the community. Were there any like mental shifts, things that you were thinking about that you realized like, hey, I'm thinking about this all wrong?
mhm. Um, I'd have to hear like what would be a good example. It's like the biggest mental shift for me was like that whole the sense of relief of knowing like they're taken care of, and I don't have to
Hmm.
do it. Like I don't have to solve. That's a problem for somebody else, and not in a
Yeah.
bad way that that's a problem for somebody else. It's like because I got my own that I'm gonna go fix, right?
Yeah.
Or the own like client. Like I hate to call them problems because they're not. It's just like hey, we want to do this thing. I'm like cool, I'll help you do that thing, right? It's
Yeah.
not really a problem. It's more of like an initiative.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah.
But
I think you're,
the other mental shift of it, oh, I'll say this about it is like the other mental shift of it is I want my employees to like feel that they're learning, feel that they're valued, and like they're treated correctly. We have, I think it's like sorry, we have five core values at our organization, and two of the five are about their well-being, really, at the organization. Now, the 10 out of 10 standard, that's for us and for them, but it's like the first value of the organization is like people first always, which is like mostly for them. Like if you like the work that they do here will never be more important than their day-to-day life, like than their life, their family life, or anything like that. This will be here, right? But if you have health issues or you have a mental thing or you just want to take a day off, do that thing, right? I give you the ability and the capacity to do that. Somebody will cover for you if you just have to take some time. The
yeah.
second, or really, it's 10 out of 10 is actually number two. It's actually underneath the people first always. And then the third one is a fair compensation philosophy. Is like everyone should be paid what they're worth, no matter what, right? We're not paying people with what they get away with or like
Hmm.
what we can get away with. Like we have a very aggressive benefits policy because I think
Yeah.
people should be taken care of from not only like a financial perspective, but also a mental perspective and also a future looking perspective by like offering, you know, I think it's decent, but like a good 401k policy at the
Yeah.
organization, to
Yeah.
set them up for success down the line. Because like I don't expect anyone working here today to spend their entire career here. I hope they don't. Right? Like go see bigger organizations and work and do something else. Become like I'm reminded of like the LinkedIn post from like the Microsoft engineer who became a goose farmer because like they worked at Microsoft for 30 years, right? And then it was just like goose farmer was the next job update. And I was like, that's cool, sort of thing, right?
Yeah.
But that's where I'm at with it. Is like if you just treat that that just really matters a lot to me.
Yeah.
And I'm very aggressive with the team on like take your time off, stop working after 4, don't answer Slack on the weekends, don't answer emails after hours unless you absolutely want to, sort of thing, right? Like it's a
Yeah.
normal job. I'm not asking for like there's a whole I work not at the other agency, but I've seen agencies where it's like you have this agency life and it's like you're answering and you're sweating, midnight solving client problems and that sort of thing. And for what? Right?
Yeah.
It never, from my experience and seeing it happen with other people, it never really affected the people that were slaving away at midnight.
Yeah.
Right? In a good way. I'll say
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. Yeah. I've got to ask only because if I don't, the community will come after me. You mentioned the three of the five tenets. Are there or values? Can you share the other two?
Sure. Yeah, 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 yeah. Like the fourth one is you just do what you say you're going to do. If I say I'm going to give you a report tomorrow afternoon, I'm going to give you the report tomorrow afternoon. That's what it
Yeah.
is, sort
Yeah.
of thing. Now, if something comes up, you get sick, just say I got sick, something happened, right? Don't
Yeah.
wait until like they ping you, Tuesday morning, where's the report at? Oh, I got
Yeah.
sick. Like, say it early. Like I
Yeah.
understand, like if you got sick, you had to go to the hospital or whatever, right? You didn't really have the chance to say that, but that's the really thing too. And then the last one really is everything we do must add value. So asking hard questions leads to more value because a client will say, well, this report doesn't look right. Like, okay, well, how do you want it to look? Right? Like, what's it supposed to say? Sort
Yeah.
of thing, right? And you ask that, we're like, oh, well, that's cool that you see it like looking that way. But what if we also built it where you could see it month over month or snapshot it or like report on, by team versus by user? Would that be interesting to you guys? Oh, yeah, that'd be
Hmm.
great. Right? Like asking more proactive questions. One, they're happier because they have more reports to look at potentially. And then two, that's also more billable time for you. So that it's not like I'm trying to be mischievous to up the billable hours because everyone benefits. They
Yeah.
get more data, we get a paycheck,
Yeah. Sure.
sort of thing, and we get to keep working together. So it's like you do that, also making sure that like whatever we're building here and the automations that you build and the notifications that you send and the email messages and the Slack and all that stuff is like you're adding value. So like
Yeah.
I caught myself a couple times of like somebody would say like, "Hey, how do I fix this?" And I just respond like, "Oh, I got it fixed for you," and that's the whole thing. But what changed was, and I noticed this with another one of my team members, is like she would send Loom videos. Here's how to fix it next time, right? If you have a
Hmm.
question, here's how to solve it for the next time. Here's a quick little how to. Here's a screenshot with like arrows pointing at where things go,
Yeah.
right? And
Yeah.
I did that, but I caught myself whenever I just had so many things going on of just like, got to get it off the plate, got to get it off the plate. And that's really the fifth one is like provide value at every interaction you can.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. I have to ask, how would you say your time breaks out in general? It's probably week to week,
Sure.
day to day is different, but like between building the business and doing like BD sales
Yeah.
activity versus delivering versus like
So
admin.
this is why I say I'm the 1%. In terms of like, I don't mean that to sound elitist. I don't mean that to sound like tooting my own horn, sitting on a shoebox, that sort of thing. It's just like it's happened, which is I don't do any BD. I do zero sales. It all knocks on my door. I am incredibly fortunate for that, and I don't take that lightly.
Hmm.
So I know for some people, you're going to have to do outreach, and you're going to have to drum up business, and you're going to have to ask companies questions. I'm sure if I started up a sales engine, I could figure that piece out. But I've been very fortunate that I haven't had to do that. And I attribute that fortune to just doing good work and just doing what you
Hmm.
said you would do because it's built this network of people who just send you business because
Hmm.
they know that if they send you Charles and they send you John, that John and Charles are going to get taken care of, right?
Yep.
And then they feel better. The people they send you also feel better.
Yeah.
From 9 to 5 every day, I'm in meetings back to back. It is very rare that I have any break whatsoever. So I think last December, Fathom sent me a notice that like I'd have to go and drum it up, but I know that I was like, if not the most active user, I was in the top 1% of users on Fathom. If you're familiar with like that, that's an AI note taker.
Yeah.
It was like I was on average meeting with 100 people per week, is I think what it said. And that's discovery calls, that's stand-ups, that's meetings, that's net new client calls, that's everything is really what it
Yeah.
was. And then I said at the end of December, I made a LinkedIn post. I'm going to try not to meet between the hours of 9 to 12. I'm just going to meet from 12 to 5. That didn't work out. Like month one, it was already lost, sort of thing. It was like, oh, I have to do this. Like, oh, cool. This is a cool client to work with. I'm going to take this call. Or, oh, that sort of thing. I did start reserving my money, my mornings just for team calls. So, like between 9 and 11 every day is like a slot reserved for team stuff. And sometimes, like
Yeah.
today, I had an hour break. I didn't have a meeting from 10 to 11. I was able to like answer some emails, work on, a couple little like side projects I've got going on for like little HubSpot apps I wish I would have built sooner, sort of
Yeah.
stuff. So it's like, I have an hour to do things like that, or I'll take a longer lunch and watch a YouTube video or something. I didn't used to do that. Now I can.
Yeah.
Um, so there's that piece of it. And then Fridays, I try to reserve for just business, like working on the business itself. So Fridays are the only days that I take super important, like has to happen this week kind of calls, calls with the team. And then I typically take no other calls than that.
Yeah.
I'll have my whole Friday mostly blocked, just to like work on the business.
Got it. Got it. Brilliant. Well, I just glanced at the clock and realized we've got 5 minutes left. So if anybody
Sure.
has any questions, feel free to come on camera and come off mute and ask them. While folks are doing that, I'm going to seize the opportunity to ask you, Chris, like if somebody's thinking about doing this, like what
Mhm.
is the one piece of advice you would give them?
Yeah. I I think the one piece of advice that I would give them is I wish I would have hired full time sooner. Now, there's stuff to be set up. Like I was unaware of this. I wanted to offer this. I didn't have to offer this. I didn't have to offer benefits. I didn't have to offer healthcare and dental and that sort of thing. When you're below like a certain employee count, you don't
Yeah.
necessarily have to do that. I
Hmm.
did because I wanted to. I did because it mattered to me
Hmm.
personally. Um, I would just make sure like have enough finances set aside to support that role for the first 90 days and leave it at that. At the end of the 90 days, evaluate. Is it working? Is it not working? Right? I've
Yeah.
worked with contractors where I lost money. There was no way to recover it. I lost ten to $12,000. Just is what it is. I learned my
Yeah.
lesson, and I know how to do that faster. There's another thing that I saw from another individual. I don't know that I'm going to embrace it, but I saw of just like hire fast and fire faster, and I don't like that necessarily. But I know what they're saying, right? Don't
Yeah.
take 6 months to do an interview process. Like 2 weeks, interview somebody and then hire for that role if they can support it. And then if it's not working out by month one or two, like let them go. And
Yep.
I'm very person and people oriented, but like if at the end of 90 days, it's just not doing like you're not able to sustain, it's time to cut ties. And
Yeah.
it's not because I don't like that person. I've never had to do this. I'm just saying, like, if it ever comes to this, this will be like the reasoning in my head is like everyone has 90 days to kind of make this
Yeah.
thing work. Like, I understand day 0 to 30 is like spinning things up. You'll see a little bit, you'll touch a little bit. That, right? 60 to 90, you should really start, or sorry, like 60 to, yeah, 30 to 60 is like really getting more with it. And then, the 60 to 90 is like you should be pretty self sufficient or getting very
Yes.
close to being self
Yep.
sufficient at that point.
Brilliant. Well, I think that's a great spot for us to wrap. Somehow, I this has honestly went by the fastest session I feel like I've ever done. So, tons of value. Credit to you. Thank you so much, Chris, for joining and sharing your insights with
Of course.
everybody. This has been awesome. I really
Yeah,
appreciate
I'm
it.
happy. Thank you so much for inviting me. I appreciate it.
Where can folks connect with you? Like if they want to follow along
Yeah.
at home, what's the best?
LinkedIn is the best.
Okay.
That's where I post. If I post, I'm very, very quiet. That's one thing that I would like to change, with getting back more time, but it's like it's the whole like doing what I say I'm going to do, right? I told clients I'm going to make this work and I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. I didn't tell them I was going to go post it on LinkedIn and tell people how to do stuff, right? So it's like I'm
Yeah.
really, really focused on taking care of them. And if I can come up for air, I'll make a LinkedIn post every now and then.
Very cool.
So
Very
that'll be
cool.
the easiest though.
You've got a lot more fans coming. I can feel it. So thank you, Chris, and we will
Yeah,
talk
thank
to you
you.
soon.
All right. Thank you so much. I
All right.
appreciate it.
Thanks,
All right.
everybody. Bye.
Thanks all. Bye.